Hi, I'm On.
And I'm Clint.
And we're Talking Heads. Our job for the next few minutes will be to introduce you to and instruct you in the basics of the ancient board game called Go. You can call me Black.
And you can call me White.
We represent the pieces, also called stones, used in playing this fun game.
The game of Go has been around for at least 4,000 years, and it's still going strong. In fact, it's one of the most popular games in all the world.
That's true. You may not know this, but there are professional Go players in Asia who are treated with the same celebrity status as our major sports and pop stars are in America.
Yes, but you don't have to be a super brain to learn and enjoy this super game.
All you need are a few tips and a Go set, along with a desire to learn and to have fun.
So sit back and absorb while we teach you the basics you need to know to play Go.
And feel free to rewind and replay any section you need clarification on.
Go is played on a square board with an equal number of horizontal and vertical lines that form intersections, like on the board you see here.
Most Go games are played on a board that has 19 by 19 intersecting lines.
But since the TV screen is only so big, and since we can only compete for your attention for so long, we'll be using a board that includes 9 by 9 intersections. You should feel free as a beginner to play on either a 9 by 9 or a 13 by 13 board.
You play the game with black and white stones, like these. Each player gets the same number of stones. Touch them. You'll like the way they feel. One player plays the black stones while the other plays the white. Black always goes first.
You play the game by placing stones on the intersection of two lines. This is different from chess and checkers, where you place the game pieces inside the lines. Another thing that's different is that the stones don't move once they're placed on the board, unless they are captured by your opponent.
The object of the game is to command the most territory or area on the board with the stones you put down. The player with the most territory on the board wins. A good rule of thumb is space plus stones equals territory.
Part of commanding territory includes capturing the other player's stones on the board, but we'll get to more on that later.
The area that you command on the board equals points when the game is finished. Whoever has the most points or territory wins the game.
Here, we'll show you how.
When playing Go, your main goal is to surround territory on the board. In order to understand what territory is, you need to understand the relationship of the stones to the game board.
Go is played by placing stones on intersecting lines.
By placing stones next to each other, you create a formation that surrounds territory. Here's an example.
Notice that black surrounds all the space in this corner, at least for now. Count them up. 10 empty points plus 8 stones equal 18 points of territory. Remember, space plus stones equals territory.
When you begin a game, you'll want to start by thinking about what territory you want to gain. Your opponent may challenge this. Don't worry, this is half the fun.
The corner areas of the board are great places to start the game. By placing stones in the corner areas, you begin to establish your territory in big chunks, which hopefully you will fill in later.
Be careful though, because your opponent can surround your stones and capture you. More on this in the next segment.
The game of Go is believed to have originated around 2350 BC, over 4,000 years ago in China. One legend has it that it was invented by Emperor Yao as a mental exercise for a son of his who wasn't too bright. Others believe the game evolved from an early form of mathematical calculation. More on Go's history in a bit. Let's get back to the basics.
An important way of gaining territory in Go includes capturing your opponent's stones. To do this, you surround their stone or stones with your own pieces.
When a stone is placed on an intersection by itself, it will have a number of lines extending from it. These lines are called liberties. Think of liberties as free or empty spaces where either you
or your opponent
can place stones. Most stones start out on the board having 4 liberties.
To capture your opponent's stone, place your stones on each of their liberties. When the last liberty is covered, the stone is considered captured and is removed from the board, where you keep it until the end of the game.
This brings us to the subject of
ATARI.
You may know it as an ancient computer and video game company, but it's actually a Japanese term used in Go that means capture on the next move.
So if your stone's liberties are taken on all but one side, your opponent can capture you on their next move. by placing their stone on your last liberty.
This situation is called ATARI.
And it's considered polite to tell your opponent when you've put them in ATARI, but it's not necessary.
And notice that if your stone is along the side of the board, then you can be placed in ATARI in 2 moves. And if your stone is on the corner of the board, in only 1.
Just so you understand, the term ATARI is not as important as knowing you're in a situation where you're about to be captured.
And of course, since each of you are taking turns placing stones on the board, capturing your opponent's stones may not be as easy as it looks.
That's right. While you're trying to capture them, they're probably looking at capturing you too.
That's why it's usually better not to focus only on capturing stones, but more on surrounding territory. After you play a little bit, you'll see what we mean. But first, let's tell you a little more about the history of the game.
Yet another theory on the origin of the game is that Go derived from ancient Chinese mystics and shamans who placed black and white stones on a square board marked with astrological symbols to help them predict the future. No one knows for sure how Go really began, but its popularity grew from a game played mostly by emperors into a game enjoyed by millions throughout Asia. By linking your stones' liberties together, you create connections of stones that share liberties. By connecting your stones, you make patterns on the board that both surround territory and protect your stones from capture. Here's an example. These 3 stones now share 8 liberties together. It is more difficult for your opponent to surround these stones now than when they were alone on the board. You can continue to link more stones to these and spread out across the board, gaining territory. But keep in mind that if your opponent surrounds all these liberties, they get all of your stones, not just 1.
No, making eyes doesn't mean distracting your opponent with goofy eye gestures. It's just another way of gaining territory and protecting your stones from capture should they become surrounded. Here's what we mean. In this example, Black has connected their stones together in such a way as to create 2 open liberties within the formation. Even if all these stones are surrounded by White, the Black stones can't be captured. This is because if White plays in one of these open spaces, or eyes, White will no longer have any liberties for that stone, while Black still has 1 liberty. White's stone will be immediately captured. This is called committing suicide in Go terms. Suicide of a single stone is not allowed. Having 2 eyes, or open liberties, Black's formation always has 2 liberties open and is safe from capture. This may seem confusing at first, but as you play, you'll understand it better.
But beware the single eye, because your opponent can capture all of your stones in this situation. This is because they can take your last liberty and all of your stones in the process. This might make you sad.
Go was introduced to Korea by Chinese government officials around 200 AD. It's believed that the game was introduced to the Japanese around 500 AD, where it gained its most widespread popularity. The rule of Ko sounds like an ominous video game overlord, but it's just another term thought of long ago to keep the game moving. Let me explain. A problem can arise while playing Go where you and your opponent find yourself capturing each other's stones over and over again. Here's an example. In this case, you capture your opponent's stone with a move like this. Then they capture you back again. And then you capture them back again. This could go on forever. So the ancient guys and gals along the way decided on a rule called Ko, which states that you can't repeat the same series of captures on the Go board without first playing another move in between. This is designed to prevent what is called invariation. In other words, if you capture your opponent's stone, they can't recapture on the next move, but must play on another part of the board in order to keep the game moving. While you ponder this, we're going to give you some more facts and stuff. One bit of Go myth that may interest you is the story of a samurai, Lord of Tamba, who was a very accomplished swordsman and scholar. He was extremely fond of Go. He heard of a monk in the area who was very skillful in Go and invited him to his castle for a game. During the game, the monk began to make fun of his host playing, at which point the samurai cut off his head. The monk's ghost used to visit the castle, poke its head over the walls and say, "How about just one more game?"